الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Indeed, all praises for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His guidance, we seek His forgiveness, we put our faith in Him and our reliance upon Him, and we seek refuge in Allah from the evil consequences of our actions. Whomsoever Allah has guided, and there is none to mislead him, and whomsoever Allah has allowed to go astray, and there is no one to guide him. And we bear witness and we testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad, the son of Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is His slave and His messenger. Alhamdulillah, we are at the end of the year 2012. And from anecdotal evidence, it appears that for every believer, there are two moments of reflection during the year. One is at the advent of Ramadan, where they start to look inside of themselves and start to ask themselves, what changes do I need so that the previous year is less than the upcoming year, so that I can be better this year in the upcoming year. And that's in our lunar calendar. And then the second time of the year, when people look inside of themselves, is at the start of the new year, in the Gregorian calendar, which is upon us. And so what I briefly wanted to speak to you about today, and give you a small reminder about, is goal setting. Goal setting for a Muslim. And it's a very practical advice that I can share with you. So if we pull back from the individual level for just a second and go on to a very macro level, and I see a lot of youth that are here today because of the holidays, and so this is speaking towards you. If you go to the macro level and you look at all the civilizations that have traversed the path of this world, be it the Phoenicians, or the Babylonians, or the Egyptians, or the Islamic civilization, you will notice that for every single one of these civilizations, whatever is remembered by a few people that added something new to the human experience. They added some sort of depth of perfection, and because of these people, that civilization is remembered today. And so if you think about the Chinese civilization, for example, the person that invented gunpowder is now in the annals of history, and today we can speak about him. And that's how the Chinese civilization is remembered, amongst many other things. But there's one distinction that our civilization, our tradition has brought. Because regardless of the discipline of study, regardless of the time, regardless of the region, this is one civilization that has not produced just a few people that have produced the apex in their professions or in their disciplines. But it has produced a long list of people throughout history. And one of the biggest distinctions between the people in our civilization and the Islamic civilization, as opposed to others, is that they did it for one reason when they carried out that deed. When they performed that deed, it was one reason, and that was to raise the banner of La ilaha illallah. Nothing more and nothing less. And so when you see a beautiful architectural piece, when you go to Istanbul and you see the Blue Mosque, and you forget that the man that built this mosque built it for one reason, and that was the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you take all of this and you see all of the people that have produced in our religion, in our tradition, there is one man that stands out, because as you and I know, we need somebody to look up to. When I was younger and growing up and playing basketball was a thing that I really loved. And I used to constantly put myself in front of videos of Michael Jordan or other basketball players that I could imitate their moves. And that's what I wanted to do. And when I quickly came to high school, I realized that the college dream wasn't going to happen, forget the NBA dream. But I needed somebody that I could imitate. And we have a long list of people in our tradition. And you may make the argument that, if you ask me to cure the blind or if you ask me to split the Red Sea, that's not something that I could even relate with, because that's something that the prophets did. So then let's talk about the companions for a second. Radiallahu anhum. And amongst them, we have the giant amongst giants. And I love to speak to the youth about this one individual, because he, like you and I, is an ordinary person that did extraordinary things. And his evidence is not established by my words. The Prophet ﷺ himself established his evidence when he said that everything that Allah has put into my heart, I have put into the heart of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into my heart, I have put into his heart. In another narration, when they were gathered, the companions were gathered around the Prophet ﷺ, he made a very bold statement to them. And he said that for every single one of you that is sitting here today, every single one of you that is sitting here today, and he's talking to the people that put their dreams, their aspirations, their time, their family, all of these things in the back burner for the time being, people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says, radiallahu anhum wa radu an, that Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with him. The Prophet ﷺ says to all of you, I tell you today that your debt has been repaid for everything that you have done to perpetuate this deen, so that 1400 years from that day till today, we could sit here in North Brunswick in 2012 going into 2013 and utter the words of La ilaha illallah. Every single one of you, your debt has been repaid, except for one of you, and that is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. In a third narration that I'll briefly mention, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said that if you were to take the iman of this one man and put it on one side of the scale, and you took the iman of the entire community and put it on the other side of the scale, his side of the scale would outweigh everybody else. His side of the scale would outweigh everybody else. Now these were great people. And they have come and they have gone. And they will be asked about what they did, and you and I will be asked about what you and I do, and what we will do, and what we have done. And so the ulama, they looked at the life of such people, and they said, what were the characteristics? What was the khisal? What was the mode of operation that these people operated on? And they came up with two things. And that's the framework that I want you to think about as you start to set your goals for the upcoming year. They said the first thing about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was that he was from was-sabiqun as-sabiqun. He was from the first and the foremost. And the ayah says, was-sabiqun as-sabiqun ulaika al-muqarrabun fi jannati an-na'im. That he was from the first and the foremost, and these are the people that are the closest to Allah, and they will be given the best of gardens, meaning al-Jannah. And so what does that mean? He was from the first and the foremost. The first and the foremost that are in this dunya will be the first and the foremost in the akhirah. And a lot of times we ask ourselves, what is this, coming first? What is this, getting that A? What does all this success mean? And a lot of times we're handed an ideology of success. This abstract concept of success, it's spoon-fed to us by the culture that surrounds us. I had the privilege to go to Hajj in 2007, and when we sat in the tent of Mina, there was a sheikh from New York, a Bangladeshi gentleman, and he said that, did you know that Allah has given the recipe for success in the Quran? He talks about success directly. And so as we start to think about writing our goals, we start to think about moving towards success. What does Allah have to say about it? is something that we should probably be concerned about. And one of the first things he starts saying is قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. That's an interesting ayah. Because Allah says that indeed the successful are the believers. Those who have khushu' in their prayers. This is one characteristic that Allah talks about. Now, the prerequisite is that you're already praying. There is an understanding, there is an implication there that you're already praying. What Allah is asking you is to take it to the next level. He is asking you to now start focusing on that prayer. He's asking you to now start focusing on that prayer. And so as one of our teachers, he says that you are exactly inside of your prayer as you are outside of your prayer. And so if your entire day is spent thinking about money, or if it's looking at nude pictures, or whatever it is, whatever you were doing before your prayer, guaranteed that's what you will be doing inside of your prayer. And so there has to be a buffer that takes you into your prayer. You have to be doing some sort of purification, some sort of having some concern of Allah and some remembrance of Allah before you even step into your prayer. One practical tip that was shared was that when you step into your prayer, imagine that the prophets of Allah are next to you, starting with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, going all the way to your right. And imagine that the angels are to your left, starting with Jibreel alayhi salam, going all the way to your left. And imagine that the angel of death stands behind you, ready to take your soul. And imagine that above you is Jummah, and below is you, the burning fire of hell. Imagine that and put yourself in that state before you step into your prayer. But it's interesting to note that Allah doesn't say that you need this amount of money in your bank account. That's not how He defines success. He's defining your success by saying, get your prayer right first. And so it's very simple and practical advice, and you've heard it again and again. And the whole focus of the Jummah Khutbah is to give the people this reminder that get your prayer right. If it hasn't been right in the past year, if it hasn't been right in the past 10 years, if you're 20 now, if you're 30 now, if you're 40 now, when are you going to fix it? If you're 50 now, when are you going to fix it? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. He says that these people, they guard their tongues. They don't establish idle talk. They don't establish idle talk. And one of the oft-quoted hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, مِنْ حُسْنِ إِسْلَامِ الْمَرْءِ تَرْكُهُ مَا لَا يَعْنِهِ, that from amongst the best manners of a Muslim is that he does not concern himself, or she does not concern themselves with things that don't matter to them. Things that don't matter to them. And if you think about the conversations that take place in our homes today, if you think about the conversations that take in our masjid, right, or in our family functions, or in our parties, the majority of it is about a few things. Sports for the brothers, for the sisters, it might be about the latest fashion or whatever it is. But then slowly it starts to decline into talking about people. Slowly starts to decline into this. مَنْ كَانَ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ فَلْيَقُولْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. If you have nothing good to say, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He equates this with your belief in Him and the last day. So your aqidah, your faith is on the line. And He's saying that if you believe in Allah and the last day, when you speak, say good or stay silent. Speak good or stay silent. It's a very easy to remember, but very difficult to put into practice. And as a matter of fact, some of the scholars, they said that if you're going to speak anyway, make sure that it brings benefit to the people. SubhanAllah, my grandmother, from my paternal side, as a matter of fact, both of them, but particularly my paternal grandmother, my dadi, when she passed away, one of the first things we could think about was that she used to speak very little. She was somebody that used to speak very little. And so now that the books on her life are closed, there's very little that she will probably be accountable for. Because the more you put out there, the more your tongue exercises. And the interesting about the tongue, it's the only muscle in your body that does not tire. You can talk and talk and talk. The only thing that will happen is that it will get dry. You just need to wet it with some water or with some spit. But it does not tire. It keeps talking. And so when Luqman, there's a story about the man that he was told to go get the best part of a goat. He was told to get the best part of a goat. He comes back with the tongue and the heart. He came back with the tongue and the heart. And then his master told him again, go back and get the worst part of the goat. And he came back with the tongue and the heart. And he said, I don't get it. I told you to get the best part, and I told you to get the worst part. And both times you brought me the tongue and the heart. And he said that indeed when the tongue and the heart are right, then that makes for the best of humankind. And when the tongue and the heart are gone astray, then that makes for the worst of humankind. And so one of the things that we can begin to inculcate in our lives is, number one, fixing our prayers. Fixing our prayers, why? Because it is a tool to make sure that you stay on path. Have you ever wondered why all five are not at the same time of the day? Why are they spread out? The Prophet ﷺ, he said that if you had streams, 5 streams outside of your house, and you bathed in them every single day before you came into your house, do you realize that you would be without filth? You would be clean? He said your prayers are exactly like that. You start to fix your prayers. You wake up with Allah. You wake up with Allah in your Isha, you go to sleep with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your mind, in your remembrance. And in between, as you are going through the workings of the day, you are again coming back to Allah during Dhuhr, and then coming back to Allah during Asr. And then your tongue is that muscle that's involved with the interaction with humankind. And what you are putting out there is being recorded. It is being recorded by the angels. And so it is up to us that if we're going to think about goals today, if we're going to think about goals over the next couple of days, one of the things that we can talk about, one of the things that we can practically put on that piece of paper when we make these goals is I need to fix my prayer. Not only if I'm just praying, I need to start having concentration in this prayer. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. Be the first and the foremost, so that you can be the first and the foremost in the akhirah. إِذُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ يُرِيدُونَ. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa habibina maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran amma ba'd. The second thing that the scholars said, the first one was to be from the first and the foremost in this dunya, so that you could be from the first and the foremost in the akhirah. And really one other thing has to be said about this is that this concept of mediocrity, the Muslim has to be absolutely disgusted by it. This concept of mediocrity or just being average, the Muslim, particularly the American Muslim, who has been privileged with the best of education, with the best of wealth, the best of resources, we have to be disgusted by it. Because if you listen to the media, they're not talking about the Zoroastrians. They're not talking about the Buddhists today. They're talking about you and I. We are in the spotlight, we are under the microscope. And it's up to us to understand that they will continue to talk. They will continue to talk the way that they are. That prose and that rhetoric will be out there, be it the minority or the majority. But you and I have to keep moving forward. We have to keep building. We have to keep getting either behind a cause or start a cause. That's for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing that they said, that these great, amazing companions, that they implemented, was a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, الدَّاعِي إِلَى الْخَيْرِ كَفَاعِلِهِ. He said that he who leads to goodness will have the reward of the person that acts out on that good. And so this is something that if you look at the life of the companions, not only were they constantly working on themselves, they were constantly reaching out to other people and trying to bring them towards this deen of Islam. They were not just people that were just content with, this is my Islam. But have you ever asked yourself, how does your Islam impact other people? The way you put your Islam out there. There's a phenomenal talk by Imam Khalid Latif from New York, well actually he's from New Jersey, that you should listen to, when he talks about how does your Islam impact other people. Because you may have gems in your family. in your gathering, people that are perhaps on the fence. They have friends that are, that take them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have friends that take them completely in the other direction. And this person, you understand that they have a good heart. You realize that it is up to you. You have family members that you say that if it was not for Allah, if this person was not my cousin, there is no way that I would have a conversation with this person. If this person was not my family member, if this was not my nephew or my niece or my cousin, and I met them, there is no way that I would have a conversation with them. And you now have been given some hidayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put something inside of you, and you've been put inside of that family. Do you realize that it is up to you to start bringing this person towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this was something that they banked on. And if you think about the Aishara Mubashara, these were 10 people that the Prophet ﷺ himself, he guaranteed them Jannah from his tongue. That truthful tongue that was commissioned to carry the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While he was here, he also said that these 10 people, amongst others, they would be promised Jannah. Do you realize that 6 of them were brought into the deen by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu? And now you start to understand that hadith a little bit better. That if you were to take the whole community and put them on one side of the scale, and you were to take this one man, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and put him on one side of the scale, he would outweigh, because everything that they do, subhanAllah, is going into the account of Abu Bakr. And every single one of you, every single one of us knows a sister, knows a brother that is on that continuum. He's struggling. And it is you to open, it's up to you to open that door towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to give him that companionship. And you start with what? If you recently saw, and I'll finish with this, if you recently saw, this Bollywood actor, Amir Khan, was at Hajj this year, right? The most highest on the socioeconomic status totem pole to the lowest. They're all at Hajj. And this man, Amir Khan, right, was at Hajj. And Maulana Talib Jameel was at Hajj too, and he had the privilege to have his company during this visit. And instead of sitting there and talking to him about start praying, start doing this, he said all he talked to him about was just normal things. He just wanted to be a friend of his. And if you see all the people that this one man has brought towards the deen, and if you're from Pakistan, you understand the people that have changed their lives. Those were that were in the singing industry, those that were in sports and entertainment, that have changed their lives because of this one man. You understand, because it's the attitude that he put. His Islam brought them in. Because he understood it properly, and then he was able to give it to others in a proper way. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. You weren't born to be put into a cubicle in front of a computer and sit in front of that 40 to 50 hours a day for 9 to 5, for 40, 50 years, and then you retire and watch the grass grow. No, that's not why you were put here. You have a mission. I have a mission. We all have a mission. And it's for us to correct ourselves, and we can start with goal setting properly this year. And secondly, it's to portray that and give that to others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those people that are from the first and the foremost, so that we can be from the first and the foremost in this dunya, and so that we can be the first and foremost in the akhirah. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wal muslimat wal mu'minina wal mu'minat wal ahya'i minhum wal amwat innaka sami'un qaribun mujibud da'wat. Allahumma rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar wa qina ma'al abrar. Ya aziz ya ghafar ya rabbal alamin. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا آمنا فاغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين. ربنا آمنا فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي. ربنا وتقبل الدعاء. ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. عباد الله ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون واقيموا الصلاه.